I think my cultural background has been changing since I moved. My formative years were in Mexico until I was 25 when I moved out of the country. And I'm 53 now, and so more than half of my life I have other cultural influences now. I mean, and living in this country influenced me. See, when you immigrate from one place to another, your change is not a passport, but it's internal. You have an inner change, and it's a journey, and you become a different person. Everywhere you live is going to leave a mark on you. When I live in France, it left a mark on me. When I live in the countryside in Mexico, it left a mark on me. And if I live in China or somewhere else, my cultural background would be different. So I reflect my experiences in life, basically. What is very interesting to me is why people build borders between themselves. And there's many borders, not just the geographical or political, but cultural borders, ethnic borders, class borders, gender borders that are invisible, but they're very real. And that kind of puzzles me. I mean, perhaps certain borders we might need, to protect ourselves. But in general, I think if people were kinder to each other, we will have to be less paranoid. We could leave our doors unlocked, like they do in some places in Canada. It's not that I'm trying to make a political point, but it comes out sometimes that way. It's more that I'm angry at something and I'm desperate of something and I put it out, whether somebody's going to like it or not. And that, in that sense, it's more of a personal freedom kind of experience that I have with my work. And I say, I don't feel like I'm not interested in pointing fingers. It's more like about putting a mirror to ourselves. I think the politics in my work are more a reflection of my own anxieties, my own personal fears about the world and society we live. More than trying to indoctrinate anybody or more than trying to convince anybody from my points of view, it's more a way to exercise my own and my own concerns, my own devils. I think your role is to be sincere with your concerns, basically. And I don't think, I cannot be preachy. And I don't think by making art we're going to change save the world. We can't. I wish. It would be too arrogant to think that we could. But with art, I think the role is just to maybe create some consciousness. I wouldn't say educate, because sometimes art is not necessarily educational. You could have a shock from a painting and you might think about it. But you might have to be educated yourself by making an effort to understand what you're seeing. So it's maybe a trigger. Maybe the artist's role is a spark, if anything, and that's it. If you do that, that's a very good role. I want to make people laugh about fear, if possible. It's very hard. Very hard. And hopefully be less fearful of each other. That's my hope. If some of my work succeeds in that, if somebody who might be very afraid of the illegal aliens, quote unquote, and see some of my work and laughs, and then they might rethink what humanity is and how we cross borders all the time, sometimes with permits, sometimes without permits, but history is a clash of cultures, basically, and there's a lot of good things that come out of it, too. In my case, I try to use some sense of humor to make people laugh and think at the same time, rather than being preachy. And in the case of immigration, sometimes my latest work has been called illegal aliens this or illegal aliens that. Like Illegal Aliens Guide to Greater America is the title of a show I had in New York. The use of this term, illegal aliens, is very interesting for me because it's kind of a xenophobic term, but when you think about it, if it's somebody who came with no papers, no passport to this country, the first illegal aliens were the Pilgrims and the conquistadors. They didn't have any passport. They act against the law of the land. Many of them were very great people, great explorers, but many of them were committing crimes against humanity, and they got away with murder, and they stayed, and they were illegal here. So this country was created on the basis of illegal immigration. Not just immigration, illegal immigration. One wave after another wave of illegal immigration, century after century. And today then, based on that logic, I realized that the contemporary illegal aliens are the contemporary pilgrims. The least people can do is be conscious of the role of this country in the world, and what can we do as human beings to improve this world? If not, directly stopping a war, because individually we cannot. We're powerless individually. But at least creating some kind of social consciousness that eventually might create some effective changes of minds. And when people change minds, there's hope.